The flashbulbs flickered like lightning across a stormy sky, each click of the camera capturing a moment that would soon be twisted into something else entirely. Caitriona Balfe stood at the edge of the red carpet, her gown a cascade of emerald silk, her smile brittle as glass. Inside, her chest ached. Tonight was supposed to be a celebration of everything she and Sam Heughan had built, a decade of on-screen magic, countless interviews, awards, and the strange intimacy that grew between co-stars. But something had cracked. She glanced sideways. Sam was there, as always, tall and magnetic, his laugh echoing across the crowd. To everyone else, he looked like the perfect friend and partner, a man who'd stood by her side for years. Only Caitriona knew the truth, or at least the fragments of it. A publicist whispered in her ear, urging her forward. Cameras, questions, the blinding glow of fame. Caitriona smiled and waved, but her mind wasn't there. It was back in the hotel room last night, where she had finally pieced together the emails, the whispered phone calls, and the contract clauses that had bound her silence. Tonight, she thought, gripping the clutch in her trembling hands, the world will know. It had started 3 years ago, when Outlander was at its peak. Their on-screen chemistry had become a global obsession. Magazines called them the Golden Duo. Behind the scenes, though, Caitriona had begun to notice things, little things. Scripts rewritten without her input. Rumors in tabloids planted by someone close. Negotiations she wasn't told about until it was too late. She had trusted Sam. He had always been the one who said, "We're in this together." But as her phone buzzed late at night with anonymous tips and leaked memos, she saw a different picture forming. Deals cut behind her back, producers wooed by Sam's charm, offers she never even knew had been on the table. By the time she confronted him in their shared trailer one cold Scottish morning, his mask didn't even slip. "Cat, you're imagining things," he had said, leaning back in his chair. "You know how Hollywood works. It's all just business." Business. The word felt like a slap. Now, on the red carpet, she could hear reporters calling their names, pairing them as always, Sam and Cat. Cat and Sam, the brand they had become. But Caitriona wasn't smiling anymore. She was thinking of the folder tucked safely in her hotel room, the one filled with contracts, bank transfers, and signed agreements. Proof. For weeks she'd cried herself hoarse, wrestling with whether to go public. Her agent begged her to stay quiet, her lawyer warned her about defamation suits. But Caitriona had lost too much already. Roles, endorsements, even friends who believed the rumors that she was difficult. She stepped closer to Sam for the cameras. He placed a hand on the small of her back, the perfect gentleman. Inside, she felt herself flinch. Tonight, she thought again. Tonight, they'll hear my voice. Caitriona's palms were damp as she sat in the back of the black SUV, the city lights blurring past like streaks of neon. Her publicist had arranged for one last interview that night, a celebration segment on a primetime talk show. In reality, it was Caitriona's stage. She had called the producer herself, promising an exclusive, something the world would never forget. Sam didn't know. He thought she'd be joining him at the after party. He didn't know that she had spent the entire afternoon rehearsing the words she would say on live television, her voice breaking as she imagined the collective gasp of millions of viewers. She stared at her reflection in the window. Her eyes were rimmed red. She had cried again before leaving the hotel, clutching the folder of documents like a life raft. She had lost endorsements, lost friends, lost trust in herself, and now she was risking her career. But she was done being silent. Backstage, the studio was cold and humming with quiet tension. The host, a seasoned journalist with a reputation for drawing out confessions, squeezed Caitriona's hand. "Are you sure?" she whispered. "Yes," Caitriona replied, her voice steady though her heart was pounding. "I've been sure for months." The producer counted down. 5, 4, 3. Caitriona breathed deeply. She thought of all the times Sam had stood on stage beside her, his arm draped protectively around her shoulder, whispering jokes into her ear. She had believed in that closeness. She had defended him in interviews, even when the tabloids hinted at trouble. Now, as the cameras blinked on, she realized this was the first time she was truly alone. "Welcome, Caitriona Balfe," the host said brightly. "Thank you," she murmured. The questions began innocuously, about her new projects, the season finale, the whirlwind of fan conventions. Then, gently, the host leaned in. "There have been rumors," she said softly, "about tensions behind the scenes. Do you want to address them?" Caitriona looked straight into the camera lens. She could almost see millions of faces watching. Her throat tightened. "Yes," she said, "I do." Sam was at the after-party, glass of champagne in hand, when his phone buzzed. He glanced down at the screen. It was a live feed of the interview. He smirked at first. Caitriona always handled the press so gracefully. But then he saw her face. Pale, trembling, eyes glistening. "She's not," he muttered, but the noise of the party drowned him out. On the television in the corner of the room, Caitriona's voice came through, quiet but unflinching. "For years, I believed we were partners, on and off screen. But I discovered that wasn't true." Sam's fingers tightened around the stem of the glass. Guests began to turn toward the screen. The party music faltered. Caitriona continued, tears pooling in her eyes but her voice steady. "Ideographic period, I have lost roles, I have lost friends, I have lost trust because I stayed silent. Tonight, I can't anymore. Tonight, I'm telling the truth." The host leaned forward. "What truth, Caitriona?" The screen cut to commercial. The party erupted into murmurs. Sam set his drink down, his jaw clenched. He reached for his phone again, but it was already buzzing with messages. The commercial break felt like an eternity. Caitriona could hear the producers scurrying, whispering into headsets. The host touched her arm gently. "You don't have to continue if you're not ready." "I am ready," Caitriona whispered back. Her hands trembled in her lap, but her eyes were fixed on the camera ahead. The countdown began again. 5, 4, 3, 2. The red light above the camera blinked on. The host's voice was softer now. "Before the break, you said you've been silent for too long. What do you want to tell the world, Caitriona?" Caitriona swallowed hard. Her throat felt raw, but then she thought of every late-night phone call ignored, every project she'd lost, every headline that painted her as difficult. She thought of the folder of evidence in her hotel room. "I want to tell the truth," she said, her voice quivering but clear. "About what's been happening behind the scenes. About betrayal. About how I've been cut out of decisions. About how my trust was taken and used against me." The audience in the studio went dead silent. At the after-party, Sam's phone began to vibrate uncontrollably. Text after text from his agent, from producers, from friends. "She's talking live." He stared at the screen showing Caitriona, her face luminous under the studio lights, eyes glistening. He could feel the attention shifting in the room, people turning from him to the TV. On screen, Caitriona's voice cracked. "For years, I defended someone I believed was my partner. But the truth is, that partnership was one-sided. Deals were made without me. Opportunities were stolen. Stories were planted to damage me." Her hands shook as she brushed away a tear. "I lost roles. I lost friends. I lost myself. I can't be silent anymore." The host asked gently, "Are you talking about Sam Heughan?" Caitriona hesitated. The studio seemed to hold its breath. "I'm talking about someone very close to me. Someone the world thinks they know." Gasps erupted in the audience. Sam left the party without a word. His driver opened the door but he didn't get in. He was already dialing her number. Straight to voicemail. He dialed again. Nothing. Back at the studio, Caitriona felt the tears spilling down her cheeks. She didn't wipe them away. "I stayed quiet because I didn't want to destroy what we built. But I've already lost everything. My reputation, my peace, my friends. I have nothing left to lose." The host, sensing the moment, leaned in closer. "What do you want now, Caitriona?" She stared into the camera, her eyes fierce even through the tears. "I want people to know the truth. I want to be free." A long pause. The audience began to applaud, softly at first, then louder, a rolling wave of sound. Sam watched the screen flicker in the back of his car. His own reflection stared back at him from the glass. The carefully crafted image, the interviews, the smiles, all of it was cracking. He lowered the phone from his ear, his jaw tightening. "She's really doing it," he muttered.